right. All right. Welcome, ladies. So today we're talking to Joellen, and my name is Monica. I'm a life coach. I host these community chats and paint and flow. And Joellen, do you want to say hi to everyone?
Hello, everyone. Welcome. It's so great to see everybody. Thanks for coming.
And so this is going to be recorded for folks that are here, but also for everyone who's going to be joining us later virtually at some point in time, because this conversation was definitely something that a lot of folks wanted to hear about. Joellen in 2020 did the move to a tiny house, and it was something that we meet as a group for Paint and Flow. And a lot of the women kept asking, well, how did she do it? What is that like? Like, it was just something that was interesting for folks to hear about. And so when Joelle and I talked about it, we wanted to sort of talk about it a little differently in terms of manifestation, and even different from what most people hear about manifestation.
Thanks so much, Monica. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Um, so, where do you want to begin? Where do you want to dive in at?
Yeah. So we can do we'll do like about 30 minutes chat. If any folks hop on, then afterwards we can do questions, but we'll keep it going.
Okay.
I guess the first thing is, how did it all start? Like, how did this idea of a tiny house start with you? Is it something you knew you always wanted? Was there some sort of spark?
There actually was this amazing spark that happened. So, I was actually planning who would handle all my affairs if I would get run over by a truck. And I was talking to my nephew, and my nephew, he's in his 20s. And I was just like, hey, I was just wondering if, Uncle Kevin and I get run over by a truck. Sad to say it that way.
Yeah.
Would you handle our estate for us? A conversation that's a really hard one to have because you have to look at your own, longevity, and, you're going to demise one day. And so my nephew, he rolled up his sleeves and he was like, yeah, Aunt Joe, sure, I'll do that for you. But I have a special request. And I was like, okay, what would the request be? And he goes, can you get rid of some of your junk? And I was just like, what? What do you mean get rid of my junk? Like, this is, all these things are a part of me. And he was just like, yeah, Aunt Joe, you got a lot of stuff in your house. And I was just like, well, wait, don't you want the house? And he's like, of course not. I don't want your house. I don't want that. And he was so disconnected from all the material things that I had said to myself, these are important and I really want to pass it to the next generation. Well, the next generation was saying, I don't want your stuff. So all of a sudden that made me really sit down and take interview myself and interview what I have, and sit there. And I was just like, what am I doing if no one wants this stuff? And it all of a sudden I was just like, maybe I should just get rid of it all. Maybe I don't need this big house anymore, because I had a 3-bedroom ranch house and I had stuff. And my nephew was just like, hey, just get rid of some of it. Well, so that started a movement, a feeling inside of just like, it's time to start making decisions on what's important to me. Because if he didn't care about me leaving him a house and giving him, a stable future, then the question was, what did I and my husband want to do going into our future, and how do we want to live our life? So it was truly just that question of who was going to handle our estate if we got run over by a truck. And then, holy Karuba, he doesn't want my stuff. And then the minutia of, what's next for myself.
Hmm.
So the interesting thing was, I made the decision that I wanted to start exploring what it would feel like to live in a smaller space, but just not the small space of the house, also the space of the environment of what state I was in. So my husband and I started planning, saying, okay, well, 2 months out of the year, we're going to start looking for a place to go and stay and experience what it's like to be in 250 square feet. what it feels like to be in 300 square feet. We stayed in all different size tiny houses for 1 month because let's be real, when you're in a place for 1 week, that's just a vacation. You're going home. You can live with the less that you have. But when you actually experience something for a whole month, the environment of the location, we took time to go to North Carolina, and we took time to go to Texas. We were exploring those two states heavily to make a decision of, can we handle the temperature change? Are we going to get 3 seasons, 4 seasons, 2 seasons? And then living in someone else's tiny house was a very interesting thing because, of course, they leave behind their stuff that they think is important for you to live there. So, do you like the pots and pans? How did you like, the bed? Do you like the size of the bed? So it was really neat to explore through 2 months. And we did it always one in the summer month and then one in the winter month. So we could experience the seasons. And then we made the decision, no way, we're never going to be able to live in 200 square feet. We're not going to be able to live in 300 square feet. And we realized that our sweet spot would be to go to the maximum size that a tiny house could be, which is 400 square feet. So, but I then said, I think I need a deck off of it. So as we were experiencing all these changes of living smaller in square footage, it was documenting, keeping a journal and documenting what I liked and what I didn't like, what I would never need and what I do need. So having that journal follow me wherever I would go was really beneficial for me to say, okay, I'm willing to sacrifice less in the kitchen to have the full washer and dryer. And it was really interesting because there was just times I was just like, what am I doing? But I kept staying steadfast on, let's just go for the experience.
Yeah. So that's actually, can we rewind even a little? Because I feel like I can hear someone going through that similar situation, whether it's exactly how you came about it, but decluttering. Spring comes all the time. People want to declutter. So, what was even the difference from saying, okay, I'm going to get rid of some things, but stay in the home
Well, let me,
instead to go tiny? Because
yeah,
I
so
think even that decision is like, that feels even key to like part of what maybe you even wanted.
well, I think there's two folds to it. So when you're packing and leaving to go away for a whole month, you have to be strategic on what that you're taking because you're only getting a car. So you have to really make a decision, like if you're the type that you need to have 7,000 different outfits. Well, my mission was I only wanted to take enough clothes for 1 week.
Okay.
And then how would that rotate? And then when you're making the minutia of planning of going away for 1 month, what's most important to take? But then when you actually start the adventure of saying, I'm going to actually move my whole life, because keep in mind, it took me 4 years to work this process. When you were switching from living in something that's, over 2,000 square footage, 3-bedroom ranch house, has a den, has a sitting room, has a full basement, has an attic, and you're going to shrink yourself down to 400 square feet, all of a sudden the mission becomes different. What has sentimental value to you? And I'll give you a couple examples that were really, really hard to make decisions on. So, like, I had a bookshelf and I loved my books. I had 3 bookshelves of books and I really, really wanted to take them with me. But the reality was, there was not going to be enough room to take all 300 bookshelves. I mean, all 3 bookshelves with all the hundreds of books on it. So we found creative ways to take them digitally and convert them into digital. But I can tell you, fast forwarding to today, living in a tiny house, I missed my friends, my books, and then I allowed myself to give myself the space back to have 2 shelves of books because I missed the tangible feeling of the book.
Mm-hmm.
But then as I was cleaning out the house of it, I was like, this was my ancestors. Who would want it? Is it important to a niece or a nephew, or should it go back to my mom? Like, is this really of value to me? And when you start valuing the things that you have, it changes what you do. So, example, like, my dad's flag, when he passed away, we got a flag, and I knew I wasn't going to have that much, closet and wall space. So then I asked my brother, would you like dad's flag? Things that were important. But then there were other things. It was just like, hello, nonprofits, would you like this? And it was amazing how it was so easy to get rid of things, because so many people want things. So after a period of time, it was just like, okay, you're going to take one little box of trinkety things. So then it was, okay, well, what's most important to me and what holds the most memory for me? And then the rest, you have to be willing to let it go. And I mean, probably another funny story would be even my chest of drawers. I mean, back in the one storm in the 90s, my husband and I painted the drawers, chest of drawers, and we wrote a message inside the drawer when we were painting it during that winter storm.
Oh,
So when I knew that I couldn't take the chest of drawers with me, I was photographing the chest of drawers to remember that memory of the time when we actually stripped them, we paint them, we put a heart on them, we dated them, and I left it go. And it was in time, it just was so easy to just let things go when it had no purpose anymore in my life. Someone else could enjoy it more. So it's decluttering is an interesting process. But again, you have to make a decision, what's important to you.
yeah, I know. That's what I keep hearing. Like, even from the beginning of that first conversation, it's like, what's important to you? And not only to your nephew who was going to have to clean it out, because then it's what's important to him, but to you as you're moving into this new future and as you're going through all of your stuff. And I know the title of this conversation has emotions in it. So that's what I wanted to even ask you. Like, what emotions were coming up? What emotions were sort of easeful to go through, and which ones kept maybe like knocking again, like, hey, you haven't gotten this, we're not done yet?
Yes. So emotions, there was a lot of different emotions. And I'll give an example. I mean, I've been journal writing since age 5, 5, 6, 7 in there. And I had tons and tons of my journals. And I was looking at those journals saying, whew, are you going with me? And I remember sitting down and starting to open the pages of the journals and reading parts of my life that I was like, oh boy, ooh, this is intense information of me and how I felt at that time. So I was like, I think I'm going to burn my journals. Is that really smart to do? Should I burn all my journals? Um, and then realizing how much of your life has gone before you, and what you don't know is how much life you still have going in front of you. So it was really interesting how I needed to dig a little deep to be able to say, I'm willing to let go of that. Doesn't mean I'm letting go of myself. It just meant that I needed to let go of all those words. I wound up burning some of them, but I realized that I'm going to really need to have a big bonfire, and it was never going to happen. So I remember the day that I just said, you know what, if someone picks you up from the recycle bin and starts reading, I hope it really inspires them. And if not, I hope they just understand that might have been a crazy moment that I was writing. And I just relinquished it and put it into the trash. And I recycled hard as heck, because there was other things that brought emotion of when my best friend passed away and I had her belongings and hoping it could go to her son one day, and letting that go. And I bring that up because that was the hardest choice, of letting go things that I was hoping to give away. And
Mhm.
that this is probably where I would say, when you're manifesting, a lot of emotions can come to the surface, and you got to be ready. And sometimes my mind would get so complex of trying to make the decision, can I squeeze it in somewhere? Is it still important? um should I really be letting it go? And the one thing I just want to share with everybody is to know that sometimes you can't do it alone. Like when you stumble upon some of these emotions as you're planning to your future and where you want to go, it can get very emotional. And I feel that, yes, your husband, your best friend, and all these people that are around you really want to help you through it. I want to really stress the importance of being able to talk to an outsider, to have them help you through. And everyone know this about me, and I'm not afraid to say it. I believe that having emotional support and having a mentor, having a counselor, having a coach, like whatever you choose to call that person, a person that's only helping you answer these tough questions on how you're feeling. And as I get these beautiful angel bumps coming up on,
Yeah.
I strongly say sometimes you do need an outside person to support your goal and manifesting where your dreams got to go, because our minds are so complex. And that definitely happened throughout the 4 years, because there was many, many no's that happened during this process. The no of, yes, that's where you're going and you're moving into that spot, and then the land doesn't close. Or, you picked a spot and you find out you can't get insurance because it's in a flood zone. I mean, all these are real things that happened to me. And there were moments that I was like, okay, I think I should give up. I think I should give up on this dream, and maybe that's all it is, and just stay exactly where I'm at. But the beautiful thing was my support vehicles around me. And again, not afraid to share it, man. Sometimes twice a month, help me out, get me relined, and send me back out there. It was, I had choices that I needed to make, because sometimes when you're dreaming and you're working that plan, you're, the best way to say it is, sometimes you just get stuck and you need
Mm-hmm.
unstick that. So I want to put that there about the emotion part, because it's not like it just happened. Like one day I made the decision move and I just went. No, it was a long process with a lot of different speed bumps, and having someone help me through that was so important.
Yeah, I think that is absolutely right. It's like these little tests. It's like these little moments. It's like, well, how committed are you? How much do you really want this? And it's also like growth. Like, how much more can we grow through this process? And so I feel you on the books and the journals, because I think if I had to go tiny right now, those are the things that would hurt me the most too. Like, you really do have to work through releasing all of that stuff because they mean the most dear to you. And so I'm even thinking about like the person, because this is what we had talked about. Like, this is a 4-year process. Like, we're condensing it into a really small conversation. There's details that we're not going to get. But I really think about that person who's like, you're brave enough to say it. Like, there's a spark, whatever that spark was, you're brave enough to be like, you know what? Yeah, I'm actually going to explore. You
Yeah.
start exploring, then you're brave enough to be like, well, you know what? I've explored. I actually am committed to this dream. And then you like step by step start doing it and doing it little by little. And you're getting these no's or you're getting these blocks. And you're like, it doesn't feel like flow. It should feel easier. What's going on? Is it really meant for me? So I'm thinking about that person who is either in it or has had enough no's that's like, well, when do I give up? Like, so in those moments for you, what
Yes.
besides having support, like what really was what else helped you know that I'm actually on my path? This is really meant for me.
So I can say in 2019, I actually thought that this whole dream was going to come to an end. I was at a point that, the place that I settled, that I thought I was going to in Texas, I had Texas picked. I was excited to know that I was going to help develop a tiny village, and all this great stuff. And I received the phone call 2 weeks before we were supposed to leave to go back down to experience the blazing heat of Texas. And the individual said, I have good news and I have bad news. The bad news is I don't think you want to move here, because the good news is someone came and offered me so much cash for my land that I couldn't pass it up. And I was like, what? And he said, but if you really want, I could create just a little space up near it was kind of like an event center he had, because he was still going to keep that little section of land. And he was like, I'll put you there. And I was like, no, that's not what I want, and I remember getting off the phone and I looked at my husband and I said, I think we need to give up on this. And he was so instrumental in saying, no, I don't think we should give up. I think you should do one more search, just do one more search in the areas that we knew we wanted to go to, and just see if something else populates. And so he had, when I say no, he says, wait. And then, so there I go back to doing my research, and all of a sudden, boop, there's a brand new village that's being built. Phase one is already in position, has been there for almost a year. And then all of a sudden there's going to be, 50 additional spots that are coming over here. And I looked at my husband and I just said, you got to look at this. And he was just like, yeah, we're going. And I was like, what? We're supposed to be going to Texas and that needs to be canceled. And he's just like, so what's the difference? We're going to drive past North Carolina to get to Texas. So now we just don't go all the way. And he goes, now we're going to go there. Now let's find out if we can rent one of the tiny houses there. And luckily, a tiny house was available. It allowed us to bring our dogs, and boom, there I'm sitting in this village the one side has, I think, about 27 tiny houses on it. I'm sitting in the exact spot that I dreamt of, being in the village, being with people, seeing the mountain. And I was just like, and my husband's like, the whole time driving there, he's like, don't worry, I know this is the place. Like he had no doubt. And I was just like, don't get excited there, buddy, slow down. And then when I got there, I was just looking at mud on the other side, and I was like, could we live here? Is this it? And he was, I know, and me, I'm doubting. And lo and behold, at the end, I mean, we went over there and sat in different mud spots. And I kept dreaming, going, I think this is it, but I don't know. Pinch me. Is it going to be another no? And 2 butterflies came when my husband and I were sitting in this one spot. And butterflies have a huge symbol for me, huge spiritual thing. And I followed them. And they landed in the spot where I live today. And so we then just said, oh, my husband's just like, I know this is it, let's go. And we literally wrote a check to hold the spot that we were going to. And then all of a sudden it was like, we have a year to get here. And then everything started moving a little bit faster. But again, keep in mind though, look, we ran into COVID. I mean, in the midst of like my tiny house being built, knowing that the spot's waiting for us, we had mudslides that stopped the house from moving. And I was just like, oh my goodness, Mother Earth, what are you doing? And then, COVID happened and North Carolina shut down, Pennsylvania shut down. I was locked. I couldn't go anywhere. I mean, so you just sit and you say, wow, like I was about to give up. My husband still had the spark. I followed the spark. And then boom, more no's came. But then boom, we finally got there. So I could just say, I say it with a lot of love and respect, hope is one thing, the plan is another. And having visuals, what kept me going through being locked in Pennsylvania and not being able to go anywhere was, I had this board where I literally had a picture of the village and I taped my tiny house in it and I kept it in front of me the whole time. And I'll share that picture with you. And I just was like, okay, I'm on it, So you're gonna run into roadblocks. And if you have choices, if you want to go and go forward past the roadblock, or if you want to say, no, I'm going to change my mind. There's nothing wrong with changing your mind because that's just natural.
Yeah, I know that's the other thing that we've talked about too, and I'm glad you mentioned COVID because I think that was this unifying experience that we're still in the midst of. We're still trying, I really don't feel that we have gone through all of the effects of it. And dreaming during that traumatic experience, even trying to dream after, it's like, I'm glad you mentioned it because some people may feel hopeless. Maybe like, well, I did have that dream and it wasn't happening. And then I thought it was going to be 2020. And guess what? 2020 was like, nope, it's not happening. And I'm still trying to like do it. So I appreciate that you mentioned that, because a lot of what you're talking about is like inner and outer. It's like there are inner emotions that you have to face during this thing, and then there was outer experiences, like full on no's, not even like a quiet no.
No, it was like, nope, that's not the lane. Nope, that's not the lane. And I say it with a lot of love and respect. I mean, even building the tiny houses, the tiny house that I live in, I ran into, weird obstacles, and it was just a matter of, again, like, okay, well, wait a minute, why did the company send me Canadian colors for the siding that I wanted to use? And then it was just like, well, are you willing to sacrifice and not have that color? Or do you want to negotiate and try to find out how do you get the colors from Canada down to North Carolina? And so I wanted those colors. I just, did my negotiation to say, hey, how do you help me? You mailed me the colors. How did I know that they were not American colors, USA colors? So I say with a lot of love to everybody is I cannot sit here and say to you, oh, guess what? It just happened overnight. That's not true. And that it's like, anything you want just comes. It still takes effort, and it still takes time, and you have to realize, like, if you want it so bad, among all the steps of success and all the success of challenges, if you keep what you want in front of you, it can happen. And vision, I mean, I had a vision board, I had things that, were in front of me all the time. And I just say it with a lot of love is just know that you got a plan, because it just doesn't go poof, here it is, let's go.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah, it's a great lesson. Now to live the life that you created is always another is the challenge. When you're used to, man, it used to take me a whole day to clean my 3-bedroom ranch home, and how dare it only take me a half hour now? And then you have time to go, hey, I can go to the mountain and I can see a waterfall. Sometimes your mind can play games on you to be thinking, well, did you clean there? Did you do that? Did you do that? And instead, you got to be able to live the excitement of, I have time and I can go now and I could go do that. Again, really interesting how those emotions can come in into play. But keep that in mind, like allow yourself to feel all of the experience, and go for what you want. Uh,
Mhm.
so critical.
I
Yeah.
think the piece that you just mentioned is so key too, because sometimes you get what you want, even though it takes a long time, and you got the place that in your heart you truly know was meant for you, it at the time that it happened. And even after getting what you want, I love that you mentioned the emotions will still come up to be like, well, so I really like, can I really enjoy it?
Yes, can I really picked close living near a hill, and I didn't think of the rain that comes down from the hill. Am I going to be content living with little rivers that going around? Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of things. And then mentally, and again, I don't sugarcoat who I am. And uh, I can tell you that there's still days that it's like, pinch me, am I really here? Pinch me, do I have the right to enjoy that I'm here? Pinch me, wow, like it's hard. There's some days that it's like, wow, this really did happen, and wow, it's here, and now let's enjoy it. You know.
Yeah. I love that. I love the part that you're bringing about, because I do think it's like deconditioning. It's to be in this space, this dream that you have. Like it takes a lot of, some of it is flow, but it does take work to be in it and to appreciate it and to feel like you truly deserve it and own it, and you're worthy of it. And I think that's common for anyone who's gone through a dream, that whole arc, that whole cycle. And so I think that's the piece of it that a lot of people, even when they get to that point, it's like, oh, but I'm still waiting for the next thing to drop. I'm still waiting for like,
And then also writing what's the next chapter, and then when you have such a big goal that you achieve, and then you sit back and you're like, oh, what's next? And
yes.
and I say that with again with this burning thing in my belly. It was just like for a little bit I was just like, well, I don't not necessarily feel like there's an what's next. But then there's this other flame that comes inside of me that's just like, okay, yeah, what's next? And so we're doing some manifesting and thinking that we might actually get a little van that has like a little tiny kitchenette in it with a sofa that converts to a bed. And can we go on the road now for 2 months out of the year? So now we're starting to dream like, oh my gosh, now we're going even smaller, but now
Yeah.
we're going to actually move. And so that's kind of like and I say it's like when you hit the dream and you hit the goal, enjoy the victory. But I still know that sometimes it's okay to be comfortable right where you're at, but then naturally you might want to write another goal and another dream and manifest something else. And then I'll say this with a lot of love. I don't know if in 5 years I'm like, I'm totally sick of living in only 400 square feet. I can't predict that right now. But the beautiful thing is, if that ever happens, I know that I can go. It doesn't mean that was a mistake. It just means I might shift my life again. So nothing's permanent. And um, just enjoy the process of it. I still, like I said, I still can't, some days I'm like, I can't believe it.
Well, it's kind of reminding me, especially since you said it took you 4 years. I'm thinking about grads, like just graduating is such a huge, like, that's one of the biggest goals, one of the biggest endeavors. It's probably one of the last times that we give ourselves permission to even have a dream. And then adulthood comes, and it's like we don't have those natural moments, those natural milestones where we go, okay, well, what's next? What else? What more can we do? And
And isn't that so true? Because you live your life when, as you're aging, it's like, oh, I'm 10. I can't wait to be 13. 13, I'm like, oh, I'm 16. I could drive a car. Oh, 18. Look at that. I can get out of the house if I want. Oh, 21. I could start drinking. Oh, I better quick get married. Oh, better make the family. Like you look at like how certain things are society driven goals and dreams. But as you take, and I say, visualize it like an onion, you hold an onion in your hand and you want to, peel off the onion of all the different layers of life. Again, that onion's going to sting. It's going to have some funky smell to it, but it doesn't mean that you have to follow the society's goals and dreams. You can go for the additional sting and say, I'm going to be different and I'm going to do this in my life. Well, you can, you're going to cry, you're going to laugh, you're going to find joy, you're going to find sorrow. Like all of it's still going to happen. But I say it with a lot of, life is just a lesson, and it's how we choose to go about creating the plan of the dream that you want to achieve. And I say keep dreaming, because if you're not dreaming, then you might be resting. If you're resting, then you're not growing.
yeah. So what now, I guess today? Today we are what, July 8th,
Yeah.
2021. What would you say is like the most important thing? Because I think that was the lesson that I kept hearing from the very beginning. It's like, well, what matters to you? What's the most important thing as you're moving from Pennsylvania, going to North Carolina, going from 3 bedroom to tiny home, and now you're in the midst of like this new dream. So what would you say today is at the core, like matters the most?
The thing that matters the most for me is to work hard 4 days a week and play harder 3 days a week. And going out there and experiencing, I love the mountains, finding the waterfall to go and see, challenging myself to in the middle of winter, putting my feet still in the water and feeling the cold. I mean, I document a lot of the strange things that I do when I'm there, but it's like I want to experience nature and I want to experience the moment. All my life, I said life's about creating the memories because, again, having lost at a young age, the only thing that kept some days of me going was the memory of a person that might have passed before me. So now it's even more important for me to make that memory and do those memories, and it's literally, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, like I'm chasing to find a waterfall, or I'm chasing to sit back and, say, okay, I'm near this water. I wonder if that stone can carry me. And then the challenge of, getting on my shoes and tiptoeing through the water, and experiencing nature, seeing views I've never seen in my life, this fall, our one goal is to go up in a hot air balloon during the fall foliage and see the colors from above. So, it all takes money and energy, but I'm willing to work hard in order to play harder. And I want to hold on to, the simpler things, because it's not like I can go on a shopping spree. I don't got the space. Um, I can't go out and say that I want to expand my wardrobe. I don't have the space. So it's now about capturing the moments more than the material things, and living that lifestyle, which I love. I just think that's like so cool.
Oh, that's amazing. Is there anything, I know that you have some photos. I don't know if you want to share some photos. And welcome, Louisa.
Oh,
If
I
you
got a heart. I love that heart. Okay, so let's see. I'm going to go ahead and share. I put in most of these pictures you can actually pick up on my personal Facebook, and all my photos are pretty wide open for anyone to see. But I just wanted to quickly show, like, 4 years of adventuring into tiny living. These are some of the tiny houses that I spent time in. And no joke, this Galveston one was, it was truly a shed. And that was the smallest one I stayed in. And it was, I'm thinking it was like maybe 165 square feet. That's a no for me. Um, so, but this teal one was my very first one that I stayed in, which was super cute. But just to kind of show you, you kind of explore, tiny house living, and you say to yourself, okay, what do I like or don't like? I'm never going to have a loft. Everything's on one floor in my house. What inspired that was this little brown one. He did have a loft. That's where you see these, these windows up at the top, but everything else was still, there was a bedroom on the first floor. That's where I realized having, exit strategies to get it out of the house if there's a fire. I learned about, having safety in a tiny house. Like, that house taught me that, which was important as I built my own. And then as we go forward, I'm going to try to not get anybody sick. This was probably my favorite tiny house that I stayed in. This actually was in a little town in North Carolina. It sat right on a lake. Literally, the lake was right in front and all around me. It did have a nice sized loft, but the bedroom was again on the first floor. But this one it really sung to my heart about being in the middle of Mother Earth, and getting to experiencing storms and things like that. It was just so a beautiful piece. But then again, I'm going to bring you back to, where did I start? In Pennsylvania, I had tons and tons of stuff. And I say this with a lot of love. I mean, I lived there for 19 years of my life, and my husband and I had a lot of stuff. So giving it away was the most rewarding. Like I said, nonprofits took a lot of it. I didn't just throw it in a trash can. I donated to anybody that wanted anything. So just to show you where I started. So this is my house in Pennsylvania. It was a beautiful 3-bedroom ranch house. I loved everything about it. Honored to say that, I did the roof, I did the windows, I did the bathroom. I thought I was going to die in this house, but it was just time to let it go. So that's where I started. I think that house was about a little under 2,000 square feet. So it had a lot of space. And then we transitioned to, where was I going next? So here I was, there's that butterfly I was talking about. There was 2 of them, and it brought me to this spot. And this was before the village was even developed. I would sit there all different hours, and I would write and say, can I see myself here? Is this where I want to be? And that's where I wound up. So here's that funny picture I was telling you about when everything was, no, you can't go there yet. the final straw of the move, I printed out a picture of where I was going, and I look at that crazy thing I did. I stuck my house on a little crooked line, and I knew I was going to get there. And my mission was to be there by 2021. And so I kept visuals in front of me as I was manifesting, kept looking for symbols. Hearts and butterflies are big for me. So as I would go into the mountains of visiting down there, Mother Earth kept talking to me, and I didn't even realize I had a heart. Someone that saw the photo on Facebook said, "Joellen, did you realize there's a heart in the tree line?" And I was like, "No, you're joking." So again, taking the time to really digest, like, hey, there's signs everywhere, guys. We have to just be willing to see them and to experience them. So that's going up into the Pisgah Mountains, which then brought me to the tiny house is moving. And this was my tiny house moving in. I was so excited. This was coming into the village, and it was a big thing. You know, you have all these movers moving your, this house that you built, and excitement, excitement, excitement. I was so nervous. I was like, don't bump her anywhere. And then when she finally gets in position and she gets electric, and you'll see both sides of the house. Like, I had specific windows I wanted and lighting, and anyone in the future can always ask me to do a video tour of my house. I'm more than willing to do it. Know that I don't make my bed, so you're never going to see my bed made. So this will show you the outside. And then this is the other side, the side that actually faces the mountain. There you'll see more windows. Again, these are night views. But then to bring you to, yes, we do get snow in North Carolina. So you can see this is my tiny, it's not really that tiny, guys, with my tiny shed. And it's just, these are all blueberry bushes and stuff. So, and to give you a feeling from on top of the mountain, this is my tiny house with the actual screened in patio that's built onto the frame. But look at the house that's behind me. That's a family with a brand new baby, and they're living about 250 square feet. This little blue guy over here, he's probably about 200 square feet. It's pretty amazing of what each person would want to experience. And as you can tell, I definitely knew I wanted to be a little bit bigger than that. The inside of the house, I pulled some photos of when I actually didn't have anything in it, because I don't even know if I have any photos of with everything in it, but I can show it to you. I can find them. But this is my little kitchen. Simple. Everyone's going to say, well, where's your oven? I have a microwave oven convection, but I don't have a range. So I use hot plates if I want to cook, and I love to cook outside. So we have a grill and we cook outside. So.
And you have a full fridge there too. There's a lot of space.
Yeah, there's a lot of space. Again, what do you want? I mean, my bathroom, boom. I needed to have a full washer and dryer. There were certain things that I was not willing to give up. But again, it's a little tighter, but again, still gives you everything you need to live, right? And then this is actually from the kitchen looking out. There's my living room. Those French doors open up to that patio. I wish I had other pictures to show. And then of course, here's like a picture of us, my husband and I, just out in the snow being like funny birds. But I mean, I welcome you at any time. If anybody ever wants like a live Zoom tour of my house, you're more than welcome to have it. I'll stop sharing now. I can say with all my soul is you can manifest anything you want. It's a matter of what action do you want to take to build it? Know that there's no right or wrong. There's nothing that tells you how to do it. I had no idea. I was just exploring in a journal, exploring where I want to be, going through hiccups. And then it just naturally came together. But it was the spark of my husband saying, no, this is it. And I was like, whatever. And I just know that life's a journey, and you can manifest anything that you want and set your mind to it. Have support. I think that is really important. Support within your family, support out of your family. And I'm always going to say kudos, to Monica for being a vehicle for people to talk to. I just strongly advise, like, everybody needs somebody to talk to, and the four walls that don't talk. Allow them to ask questions and enjoy, enjoy life, and know that even if you get there and you don't like it, you can choose to go somewhere else. But remember, I don't think we ever saw anyone who passed away that had a U-Haul and they're able to take all their stuff with them. So thank you to my nephew for teaching me that I could get rid of some things, or I should say a lot of things. But I also then realized that less is new more for me, and everyone's going to have a different feeling of what's important to them. And I say, live it, live what you want. It's hard as heck, but no one needs to tell you what to do. You can tell yourself what to do.
Mhm.
So
Yes, thank you for sharing that, especially after the year that we've had. I think that that message is even more, it hits home of like knowing what's important to you, knowing what you want, knowing how you want to spend your days, who you want to spend it with, what
you,
you want to be surrounded by,
yes,
and actually like the message that I'm getting from you is like you can dream that and then it can actually happen. You can actually take the steps to make it happen. And it may not be easy,
yes.
but there's a point where it does come together. Like the pieces start to fit together. Even if in the beginning it's like, oh my God, I'm trying to put this edge in the center, it's not working. What about this? What about that? Yeah. I'm going to open it up to see if, I know, Louisa, you came in. I don't know if you have any questions. I know Nancy's on the call too. Maybe she won't have, but I'm going to open it up to see if anyone has questions or any last thoughts.
Hey, Joellen, sorry I was late.
Okay, welcome. Glad you could make
Thank
it.
you. I'm glad I saw the pictures. I love those pictures.
Oh.
And how different people choose different designs and, priorities on that.
And don't hesitate to go out on my Facebook. There's a million more.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a
Okay.
million more.
What what would you say is the biggest lesson nature has been teaching you now that you're living in the middle of the mountains?
So I would have to say the river has been the greatest teacher, because when I sit at a river or a creek or a waterfall, I think how fast that the water is moving, and how it can move, rocks. It could go around rocks. It can be so clear and you could see your reflection. So I wrote a few weeks ago on my Facebook, like what the river has taught me.
Mhm.
And when you have times that you feel like it's everything's feeling muddy and confusing, it's amazing how water can be so calm and peaceful too, and clear. So I really have learned, I should say, and I look for the message from nature that's saying, you know what, it's okay to feel the rapid pace, but then it's okay to find the tranquility too. Even a bird, I mean, it sounds really far-fetched, but sometimes I feel like a bird's talking to me. And so I'm taking the time to hear the sounds, and then I start appreciating my senses more.
Right.
So I would definitely say nature has, a lot of things to teach us, in the
Yeah.
sense of it. Sometimes it gets scary to sit in silence, but there's a lot of answers within silence if you want to hear it too.
Exactly. Yeah.
So,
Thank you.
no, great question. Thank you.
That was a fantastic question. Yeah. And that experience that you're talking about really reminds me of being in nature. And it's true. It's uncomfortable at first, but if
Yes.
you move past or you stay with the discomfort, you get to a place where you're like, oh, okay, it's not so bad. And things start popping in, or you start, I agree, that bird talking to you is real. It's not like a figment of your imagination. Like there are things that you can't, even something as simple as like, we had this tiny glitch when you mentioned loss earlier. I don't
Mhm.
take that as a coincidence. Like it's not just like I think sometimes there are things that happen around us, like you were talking about, signs that we don't even, if we don't pay attention, we miss them, but they are there.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is then seeing the perspective of like, I mean, it all sounds really good, but like even when I'm walking in nature, I start to realize how much there's life within the different life that I'm living. So, like the one day I literally put myself on the ground and said, if I was an ant, what would I be seeing? And so I was actually capturing the moment, looking up to the from the ground, saying, wow, you know what, this grass blade is actually pretty big, and
Right.
whole other dynamic of like, hey, that weed, that dandelion really could remind me of making a wish, when I was a kid, or making the decision of, you know, do I stop and smell the flowers when I'm down there? Do I enjoy the vibrancy of the simplicity of the petal that's connecting to the flower? I mean, it's so different when when you take the time to slow it down, because I think in life we're going so quickly that we have a tendency of forgetting the small things that really can teach us a lot of lessons. The bluebirds that are buzzing around and they're so happy and full of joy. It's just amazing. So
Yeah.
so I don't know. Remember, our mind is complex. We get these little roommates that can start talking, and that comes from a book called The Untethered Soul. If you haven't read it, I strongly recommend it. And our minds can, play tricks on us, but we can also play tricks right back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Joellen, for sharing. You helped us. Like this hour, I feel like we got to slow down. And in a way, it's like time slowed down, but also sped up. We went through 4 years of your dream, 4 years of this amazing time in your life, and even past it, because now you're actually living there. You got to show us through pictures and through your words. And so I hope that that really sparks something in anyone who's listening right now, which we talked about earlier, that maybe you had dreams before 2020, or 2020 sparked a dream in you. And really it's okay, what's that next step? What are the signs happening around you? Who's going to be part of your support? Like you said, within your family, but also outside of your family. Like, who is going to be part of your cheerleaders that champion you every time you get in that low part, which is normal. It's going to be a normal part of it. So I really thank you for slowing us down, taking us through your process, sharing the lessons that you've learned from nature. I think even that nugget alone is just impactful.
Well, and Monica, thank you for, giving us this vehicle to, really just come together and talk about the different ways that we all process different things in our lives. And, I can't say it enough. I mean, again, thank you. Thank you for, creating this space for us.
Yeah, thank you. And I know that people can find you on Facebook. I'm gonna put it in the chat, but then when I share this, because I will be sharing this later, I want to definitely share your Facebook, especially if anyone is like, well, I kind of want to see this tiny house. I'm ready to explore. Or here it is. It's gonna be there. That's you on Facebook.
I'll check it out for sure.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm always here. I'm an open book. I'll tell you anything you want to know that I know. And just know it doesn't have to be tiny. It could be, buying your first house. It could be moving into a different apartment. It could be anything you want it to be. I think we're all here on this earth for a reason. And the more that we can come together and glue together, the stronger that we all become. So, don't hesitate to manifest what you want. And just remember, my one good friend said to me today, he said, hope is not a plan, which I was floored by that statement, that yes, it takes a plan in order to manifest your dreams. It's just not hope that brings it. So thanks to my buddy Brad that gave me that good smack when I was like, whoa.
Yes. And then for anyone else that is watching that has like the extra nudge that they want, this is the stuff that I love to do. So if you want to connect with me further, you can find me on my website. It's monicaortizcoaching.com, and you can connect with me there. If there's anyone else in our community chats that you want to hear from, that you're like, I want to hear their story, let me know there too, because this will be a great way for everyone to start sharing even more of the stuff that they're experiencing, the art that they're creating, the lives that they're creating for themselves.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank
All
you.
right, ladies. So it was
Thank
good
you.
talking to you. We'll meet up again.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Monica. Thank you, Joelle. And take care.
Yeah.
See you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.